Okay, so in the last tutorial we learned about the width and height variables that processing generates for us based on how we specify the size of the window. If we set it to 400 by 400, the width is 400 and the height is 400. Or we can change the height to 600 and those variables are updated accordingly. And we can use those variables to draw things. So we'll say the center x coordinate, how far over it is from left to right, is the width divided by 2, and then the center y coordinate is height divided by 2, and then we want it to fill up the window, so we'll say we want it to be that width and height. And then now if we run our program, a white circle will pop up in the middle of the screen and fill the entire screen in total. So, but at this point we can change this to be a different size window and our circle will still fill up the entire thing. Okay, so how do you create and utilize your own variables then? Well, there are a number of different types of variables that you can create, each of which stores different information. So there are three main types of variables that we're going to use at first. One is an integer, which, longhand says this, but in our coding languages, for the sake of efficiency, we just say int. And we give our container a name, like center x, and we give it a value. And an integer is just a whole number. It can't have any decimal points after it. So you can't store something like that in an int container. You can see the processing compiler gets frustrated with you. So we'll just store whole numbers in integer containers. And then there's another type that if you do want to store decimal points or fractional components, that's called a float in the language processing. And so we could create the center y as a float, and now we can add decimal ranges and it will tolerate that. It can hold those decimal points, not just the whole number. The third type we're going to use is called a string, which is just a way to store words. So we can say the string greeting, so that the name of the container represents kind of its function. And then we can say, hi, hello world, with a semicolon at the end of the line. And then we can utilize these variables. So what are these things? Well, each is a container that can hold a different chunk of information, and it can change over time. This center x is not always going to be 200. It can be changed down below. So center x, let's say this now equals 400. And so the value at first started as 200, but then we swapped it out. We parked a different car in that parking space that is called center x, and now we parked the number 400. If you've had algebra, this is going to be very familiar to you. So just as a review, to create a variable for you to use, a container in which you can store information, you have to specify the type, give it a name that speaks to or indicates its purpose, and then give it an initial value after using a single equal symbol. So this is not a math equal symbol. This says take whatever's over here and put it in whatever's over here. So take what's on the right and put it what's on the left. Put it in the container on the left, or set the value of the container on the left to this. And that is enough for this video.